Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
We talk a lot about the younger generation on this show and how we hope that they will correct many of the mistakes that we have made and make a better world than we are currently handing to them. One of the people who is really someone to watch is a 16-year-old Khartik Uppalapati. They suffer from an illness that is considered a rare disease. And so what did they do? They decided to create an organization, youth-led, international, a rare disease action collective. Did I mention he's 16 years old? Yeah, I think I did. This organization has worked with pretty much every organization you can think of. They have submitted ideas and been listened to by the United Nations. They have worked in conjunction with the ACLU and the AMA. Quite an accomplishment for someone of any age, let alone somebody who is just getting started in life. The organization is called RareGen, and we have invited this incredible human being to join us and talk about their journey and talk about starting the RareGen Youth Network and what it does. Khartik, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. So, that was a really great introduction.
I was told that you actually also suffer from a rare disease. Can you tell us about that as much as you're comfortable with?
Yeah, so I actually suffer from two rare diseases. So the first one is lymphedema, which I was diagnosed with in 2021 when I was in 7th grade. And the second one is vascular malformations of my hip. And that was something that appeared during the same time period, a couple of months after that. And, what's really unique about my two rare diseases is that I was not born with them and there was no symptoms, right? So these appeared seemingly out of nowhere when I was 12 years old. That too during the COVID pandemic. So it was like a completely different experience than being diagnosed at some other time, where there's more resources, more in-person treatment, more non-virtual medical care. So that was quite a journey. And those are the two rare diseases that I have.
I know that you have done some biomedical research, that you are conversational with AI. How did you take all of that skill set plus your own personal experience and turn that into the RareGen Youth Network?
Yeah, so, initially when I was diagnosed with both of my rare diseases, I was a little bit confused as to where they came from and why they were being caused. And I was really shocked that, doctors couldn't. First of all, it took 8 doctors to diagnose me across 3 different states. And it also took an 8-month period for any accurate diagnosis. So I was really shocked that, the medical system is so large. There's a lot of money that goes into it. There's a lot of resources. We have some of the best universities in the U.S., but somehow, these doctors still weren't able to pinpoint the cause of my 2 rare diseases for almost a year. So that sort of frustration with the medical system led me to explore the intersection between AI and rare diseases and using data to predict outcomes like, when will someone be diagnosed with a rare disease? Are they at risk for any rare diseases? Could there be any genetic factors that contribute to a rare disease? Because unlike other diseases that aren't rare, for rare diseases, identifying the disease is the hardest part. So, AI really helps alleviate that issue because it's like a second brain for doctors, right? So they have a second opinion, a partner to work with, and AI is really good at analyzing medical data, so it makes it pretty easy for rare disease diagnosis to happen and to happen more accurately over time as we get more and more data to support it.
Have you found a lot of cooperation from the medical establishment? In my experience, they tend to be slow to warm up to new ideas.
Yeah, so that was a big hurdle, especially because, like I'm only 16, right? So there's obviously a lot of skepticism that comes with that initially. But the good part about AI and technology is that, if you have a claim, if you make something, you always have data to back it up, right? So once I've showed that data, showed the results, showed the impact, a lot of healthcare providers, doctors, and researchers, clinical researchers, were really willing to cooperate with ideas and take it to the next step and, potentially pursue publication or implementing it in their own practices or whatnot. So once I really got that data and got a large amount of it, it became easier to work with these sort of medical institutions and people in the healthcare field. But initially there was a big barrier, and that was due to a lot of stigma due to age and just general skepticism about AI, because what I noticed is that a lot of doctors are wary of AI and its impact. So unless they see a lot of data, a lot of concrete proof that what I'm proposing works, they're usually skeptical of it initially. But over time, they did grow to appreciate it. And now, there's a lot of people in the medical field that are really happy with what I've created.
I know part of what you do with RareGen is try to make medicines more available for people with rare diseases. And as we all know, as anybody who's ever looked into the idea of orphan drugs, unless there's a big audience and they stand to make big profits, a lot of times pharmaceutical companies don't want to pursue those kinds of treatments. Tell me about your work in that area.
Yeah, so a lot of RareGen's work has been involved in policy for rare disease treatment access. And there's actually a hidden sort of backdoor to a lot of these expensive treatments that most biotechnology companies provide to pharmaceuticals, which is generic drugs, right? So there's generic drugs which are sort of copies of existing name brand drugs, and they work very similarly. There's also stringent guidelines for a generic drug to be able to be called a generic drug by the FDA. And, they're way cheaper than any other market name brand drug. But the issue is the FDA doesn't approve the servicing of these generic drugs to patients. So even though they work, they've been tested, patients want to use them, they trust them, and doctors want to prescribe them. Because it takes away profits from big pharma if they get prescribed over their name brand drugs, the FDA has been working with them to not include these generic drugs on the list of approved drugs for doctors to prescribe to patients. So what me and my team did is we worked with Senator Lamb of Maryland, State Senator Lamb, and we helped get a bill through the state Senate, which gives subsidies to patients who want access to generic drugs, but don't have insurance to cover them because, insurance says that the FDA doesn't approve them or whatnot. So we work to make these generic drugs more accessible and subsidized for the people who want them. And I think the biggest issue coming up for people with rare diseases is, there's treatments available, but because of all these legal issues and policy issues, there's a lot of barriers for people who want to access them.
I notice on the RareGen website, which is, by the way, raregen.org, that some of the people who've connected with your organization have left testimonials, and a couple of them talk about your peer support program. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, I got diagnosed with a rare disease out of nowhere. It felt very isolating, especially during the COVID pandemic when everything became virtual, right? There was really little in-person networking, in-person support groups, in-person medical treatment. So, I felt very isolated during that period. So I was looking to form a community of people who experience rare diseases just like me because, even though there's tons of rare diseases, we have a common sort of shared experience that people with rare diseases can connect with. So I wanted to create a group specifically for the youth, for all rare diseases to connect because, there are groups for people with rare diseases to connect, but not specifically the youth. And sometimes even if there are youth-led peer support networks, they're only for a specific disease, so they're really small and there's a lot less diversity within them. And there's a lot less opportunities to connect with other people.
Tell me about the work that you did in conjunction with the United Nations.
Yeah, so actually this summer, me and two of my executive board members went to Bangkok for the UN Responsible Human Rights and Business Conference. So what we did there is we advocated for more inclusion of people with disabilities and with rare diseases into the workforce. And additionally, there's a lot of environmental factors that can cause rare diseases like pollution, predisposure to certain chemicals that are being emitted from factories, from manufacturers. So we worked with a lot of companies based in Southeast Asia and the Pacific to create regulations and create accountability measures for companies that are prone to releasing those pollutants or whatnot that cause rare diseases, and making sure that they limit their environmental impact. Because, rare diseases, some people might think it's niche, but there's actually a lot of intersections with other issues like race, climate change, business. So addressing those gaps and addressing those special points where there might be sort of unintuitive intersections was really important to us, because if we don't talk about how climate change affects rare diseases, no one else will think about it and think of it as an issue. So that was something that we advocated for, and we've been doing a lot of intersectional work with rare disease to make sure that some of these more niche problems are being brought to light.
Are you a regular high school student, or do you already have your PhD?
Yeah, I'm in 11th grade. I'm going to be graduating in 2026, but I am on an advanced course load, so I've taken most of the math courses offered by my county. I'm at the undergraduate math level right now, like second, third year undergraduate, taking most of the sciences, physics, biology. So, yeah, I am a student, but there's not really much else for me to take course-wise. Yeah.
And do you plan to attend college, or are you pretty much educationally past anything you could learn at the college level?
Yeah, so I feel like I've only touched the surface, right? I haven't taken a lot of specialized courses. I can learn from the people in a college setting. Like, people come from all over to attend college. Right now, I've only worked with people in my area at school. So I feel like going to college is definitely something I will be doing in 2 years' time. And I'm looking forward to expanding my knowledge on rare diseases, public health, global health, and medicine.
It is extraordinary to me that I understand that sometimes when somebody has a personal situation, it provides extra passion and extra motivation to do something about that situation. And certainly as somebody who has 2 rare diseases, you certainly qualify. But what you have done and the level to which you have taken all this is really extraordinary. It really is amazing. And, I'll probably get myself into trouble here, but you have an AI-driven protein structure modeling program that you presented at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Tell me what I just said, AI-driven protein structure modeling. What is that?
Yeah, so, when people create drugs for any disease, what they'll look to do is they'll look to target some biological molecule and either impair its function or help it become even stronger. So what I focused on a disease called PFIC, which one of my directors at RareGen has. And how PFIC works is there's a protein called BSEP, and that BSEP protein doesn't really work as it should normally. So what I did is I took data on the diseased BSEP protein and compared it to a healthy BSEP protein and used AI to reconstruct it so that I can deliver a sort of synthetic protein to people who need it, where their BSEPs are not being produced properly. So using AI, I was able to create a replacement for that protein, and it can be delivered through therapies, gene therapies, injections, any sort of way to get into the body. So it was helpful for people with the disease PFIC, where that specific protein is being impaired.
How are your rare diseases right now? Are they in remission? Are they under control?
Yeah, so both of them are pretty much under control right now because I've gone through a lot of medical procedures, especially early on, preventative sort of medical procedures. So they occasionally flare up every now and then, especially lymphedema, which is seasonal for me in my specific instance. So it's definitely gotten a lot better since my initial diagnosis, but, I do obviously still have them, and they obviously still have their effect every now and then. Yeah.
What do you want to be doing 10 years from now?
So, I have two philosophies towards rare diseases, right? Like the first thing is we need research to innovate towards better progress for rare diseases, fundamental progress. But at the same time, we need policy to help support these rare diseases, right? And get these findings out to the people. Like even now we have generic drugs, but people can't access them because of policy issues. Mm-hmm. So in 10 years, I want to get into a role where, I have authority over both policy and research for rare diseases, specifically maybe working with the NIH or ARPA, which is a new initiative by the government, or Health and Human Services, or the WHO, any sort of regulatory body for public health and research where you can sort of find an intersection between both sort of fields.
Well, if anybody can do it, Khartik, it's you. I just want you to know that I'm really in awe of what you have accomplished in your brief 16 years. And man, I look forward to what you're going to be doing over the next few decades. Good luck with everything. And thank you so much for joining me and my audience today.
Thank you. Yep.
And anybody who wants to find out more information about the work, like I said, there's a website. It's really easy. RareGen.org is a great place to start. I can't wait to hear what you do in the future. I think we're probably all going to be watching your career for a very long time. Khartik, thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's Khartik Uppalapati, who created the RareGen Youth Network. Some amazing, incredible outreach, support, and science coming together. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Man, talking with somebody like Khartik really makes you feel so much better about the future. 16 years old, and he's already accomplished more than many of us do at even an advanced stage. And so articulate, so well spoken about it as well. Man, I would love to see somebody like that become the Secretary of Health and Human Services or head of the CDC. Wouldn't you? Someone who believes in science and in data and in making everybody's life better. A world we can certainly aspire to. Okay. I am going to be wrapping things up. Patty Vasquez has a killer show tonight, by the way. Heidi Stevens is going to be joining her. You remember her? I believe it says here, former Chicago Tribune columnist,